Hello and welcome your face back to a non-nonsense or a very nonsense guide to Warhammer 3. So really quickly in this video, where we left off, we were recruiting units, right? So in this episode, let's talk about diplomacy and let's talk about research. Okay, really quickly, research. Research is actually different per race. So this is not faction-wide. I shouldn't say faction-wide, I said universal towards... I should be saying universal towards all of Warhammer factions. However, this is actually... This is different depending on the race, actually. So, on the faction. But it gets more complicated because some races have legendary lords with different technologies than others. So keep that in mind. However, for this video... let's talk about the Empire's technology tree, because this is where we're going to be doing all of our research. Research is done by clicking this little icon right here, or sometimes if you forget to click on something, the game will remind you and say, hey, before you end the game or the end turn, how about you do some research? So there's a couple of things which is nice about the Empire's tree. It categorizes everything for you, which is nice, because not all races do that. Infantry's here, missiles there, cavalry's there, trade and industry. Diplomatic corps are cool as well. Some of these cost money, some of these cost turns. Cool. Let's go into trade and industry. This is always a good one. So campaign movement +5. If we research this, we'll gain these traits, which is nice. Or we can do growth. Let's go into growth. Growth is a good one to do. Once you click on that, it's automatically researching it. You can also have heroes do actions against other factions to get more research rate as well. So it's called steel technology. The cool thing about Balthazar Gelt, this is exclusive only to him, is that he gets access to the colleges of magic. So let's go ahead and summon our first Bright Wizard. I would like you to join the army. There we go. Let's do some unassigned things. Fireball, and we want the Burning Head because it's just a really good spell. Now, let's do some diplomacy. Diplomacy, my lord. Let's do some diplomacy. Here we go. Okay, so a couple of things in diplomacy. It's kind of a lot, but kind of not. It's actually quite simple. So diplomacy in the olden days of Warhammer 2 and Warhammer 3 partially, we would have to go faction by faction by faction to see who wanted to do diplomacy with us. However, now we have this little tab that says quick deals. When we click on that, we can make a couple of different things happen through diplomacy. We can have a non-aggression pact, which means, hey, Skavens. And then they'll say something like, yes, yes, because they're Skaven, right? And then you'll say, we are the Empire, and we agree that we won't attack you if you sign this non-aggression pact. And then they'll say, yes, yes, and then they'll betray you because they're Skaven. Skaven are rat people if you guys are super, super new to the genre. They're not to be trusted. I love the Skaven, but not to be trusted. The other one is trade agreements. We actually can do a trade agreement with Zhao Ming, who we have good favors with. Also, the more likable you are as a faction, the better some of these trades will be. So let's initiate some diplomacy.
The Lord of the Jade Swan.
Okay, so our trade offer is wood, and their trade offer is wood. Or I guess tariffs in this case. Let's balance it out. They'll pay us 157. Let's propose this offer. They have accepted. Now we have a trade agreement with them. Very nice. Nice. Let's look for military access. Nobody wants to have military access with us. Military access means that we are allowed to go through their provinces. So for example, let us go back to our character. If we wanted to go over here, you see how it says, the army cannot move in current... Oh, that's something different. Trespassing will have diplomatic repercussions. So this faction will not like us. The other thing to keep in mind, because this gets kind of complicated, some factions, lore-wise, which is important, this is kind of important why you should know a little bit of the lore, just enough to get by. Some factions have aversion towards you. Some factions don't like you because you're really strong. Some factions don't like you because you're a specific, it sounds kind of racist, a specific race. For example, the dwarves. The dwarves hate everybody besides a couple of races. The dwarves hate the high elves. The dwarves hate the wood elves. The dwarves hate the Skaven. The dwarves like, kinda, the Empire. So they like man. The dwarves are grumpy little fuckers in this world, and they have this thing called the Great Book of Grudges, where they write down all of the grudges that's ever been done to them, and they try to go out and seek redemption for those grudges. Because of that, it's kind of hard to negotiate with dwarves if you're any other faction than the Empire. That being said, the vampire counts already have -40 aversion to us, so they just condemn us because we are humans. The next thing that we can do is defensive alliances. Defensive alliances, if somebody attacks, let's say, Zhao Ming, I am forced by the defensive alliance to go to war with that faction. And if somebody attacks me and I have a defensive alliance with Zhao Ming, that means that Zhao Ming has the choice to go to war with the faction that attacked me with me, right? So me and him will go and attack that faction. If they don't, they'll break the defensive alliance and they'll get negative honor. Or negative reliability, I should say. Military alliances are a little bit different. Military alliances, if I declare war on, let's say, a Skaven faction, Zhao Ming is kind of forced to go along with that war, and if he declines, we break the alliance, and he gets very low reliability. Reliability is another thing. You start off the game with very high reliability. If you do shady things, like if you have a non-aggression pact with the western provinces, right? And if I go over there and attack Zhao Ming, my reliability will be very low. A lot of other factions might decide that they will just go to war with me because I'm not trustworthy. So keep that in mind. The last is a peace treaty. We can parlay in a way and have a peace treaty. That's pretty much diplomacy in a nutshell. It's not super complicated, but it is a lot to cover. So let's move forward a couple of turns. So this little counter indicates that there's 286 factions left. 283 factions left. It might be less during the end turn. Let's see how many factions are left towards the end. And, yep, 283. Cool. So, because we don't want to lose any more time, let's move up to this point right here. And we can recruit here. The reason we're doing this is so we have the movement to attack this next turn. If we're over here, we're not going to be able to do it, so we need to move forward. Now let's go ahead and recruit us again. Let's go over Regiments of Renown. Regiments of Renown are pretty much basic units with a little bit of buffs. They're kind of like legendary units in a way, if you want to think about it. They're Regiments of Renown. The other ones are recruitment from the Elector Count State troops. That's something different for the Empire faction as a whole. Pretty much if you capture... Well, let's not go over that right now because we're not in the Empire. But if we decide to go back, we'll go over it. And then we have the third thing, which is just recruit. Let's do more for our front line. We don't just want a back line. That won't make a lot of sense. There'll be nothing to hold the enemy back while we're getting jumped, essentially. Let's move forward another turn, and let's keep it rocking and rolling. Cool. So now there is 272 factions remaining. So the factions are dropping. Cool. Okay. Let's move on to the next province that we're going to attack. So some of these provinces have... some of them you can build how would I explain it? Some of them you can build little like encampments, I would suppose you would say it. Some of them are just open field, like the one that we're going into, and some of them are siege battles with actual castles and stuff. And we're not going to get into one until we get to the main province, most likely. Okay, so this is just an open field. Cool. So like we did before, let's move our artillery to this corner. Because if we have the artillery here, right, these trees would actually impede the artillery and would stop them from actually delivering what they have to deliver. This isn't too bad. There are a lot of trees around here, but it should go over them. If not, this is kind of an open field right here for them to shoot at. Let's move everybody right there.
Yes, sir.
We have 2 more units that we just recruited last turn that we're going to stack on top. Where are our archers? We should have 2 more archer units. There they are. And our battle wizard. So we're going to put them right at the back. And because we're not playing the vampire counts, we're playing the empire, we want to open it up a little bit. Just in case. Let's move them forward like that. We're going to do that just in case anything tries to get towards us. It's able to, these guys are able to stop them. Let's go ahead and move our units behind like that again. Let's fast forward a little bit. Okay, right here, let's have... are we going to have enough space? We're not, so we're going to have to point it this way. So this is a spell by our Bright Wizard. It's a skull. Nice. So it did so much damage, it actually almost took the unit out. It took the unit out. It took the unit out, and now it is leaving. I don't know what happened to this unit. I'm assuming our artillery's been like shooting at it non-stop. Let's move our Hellstorm battery to attack that. Let's see what's happening here. Let's see if we can cast another spell. We can. Let's cast the Golden Hounds. This will do a good amount of damage here without damaging our own units. That's pretty good. Nice. That's another unit not to worry about. Let's go ahead and move this unit this way. And let's move them this way as well. Let's move these guys a little bit back because they're way too forward. Okay, so now we're going to flank this unit. Nice. The shock cavalry has attacked that. Beautiful. Let's bring in our shock cavalry as well. The reason we want to move them back is because now these guys have lower leadership because they're being flanked. And the game actually is able to detect that. And it lowers it, which means they rout. Like how these guys are routing away. There's no need for us to do anything else. If anything, let's just move our lords here so they can bring more leadership towards our units. And again, they're within our leadership. Cool. Another victory. And that's just some of the tactics that I like to use when I'm using the Empire. But it really just depends on which faction you're using and how you want to play them. This tutorial isn't always going to just focus on Balthazar Gelt and the Empire. I would like to go to different factions because they all play very differently and they all play uniquely, I would say. Like Gelt has the ability to summon wizards in the campaign map. I think that's the only legendary lord that can do that. So let's go ahead and occupy it. Cool beans. The Winds of Magic is something that's really important. So the Winds of Magic is how much magic you have within your reserve. Think about it kind of like a bottle, right? You only have like let's say 7 ounces, right? Let's say that each spell is like 2 ounces of that bottle. When that bottle like is depleted, you no longer can cast spells. So you want to make the best of the spells within the amount of Winds of Magic that you have.
Let us begin.
And you can increase the Winds of Magic by different stands that you take through the campaign map. Like you could take the channeling stance and you'll get 15 Winds of Magic per turn. Right now we are sitting at 50.
Very well, I'll move.
Let's put Gelt here and let's recruit yet again. Let's start getting some mortars so we have more artillery to play with. Let's end the turn. There used to be a glitch here where you weren't able to cross it. I don't think it'll be the case anymore. It's been a lot of updates since, so we're going to try to cross this right now. We're at 267 when it comes to different factions that are still here. Let's move our hero here so we can see a little bit more what's going on in the front. Okay. Looks good to me. Okay. Just kind of looking around to see if we're getting flanked or anything. It looks like this way we can have a lot more movement than this way around. We're probably going to go this way, and we're probably going to have our force march. Keep in mind when we do marching, if they catch us, we're not allowed to retreat. However, if we're in our normal stance, we are able to retreat. And there's a couple of various stances that you can take. You could take an ambush stance and hope that they don't see you, and once they come across you, you ambush them. You can have a raiding stance with if you're in their territory, you're able to take money from them. But you have vigor in battle, and your upkeep from all their buildings is minus 100% when you're raiding. Well, actually, I'm just reading at the bottom right now. It says when you're raiding your own region, so keep that in mind as well. And you can also have an encampment, so you can just have an encampment, which is kind of cool. And it also stops you from being ambushed. It's a plus 75% to ambush rates. So that's really good against Skavens, because Skavens do a lot of ambushing. Let's go into channeling mode, because we need a channel so we have more magic. That's kind of like a really big thing for Geld. And let's go ahead and get a new spell for us.